a lot of knowledge in that form, and to take advantage of the many, many organizations that where young people can get help and get training. Now, for instance, church groups, young people's groups, school counselors, and leaders in various clubs will be glad to help you. And I would like you to say to your children, do not hesitate to ask for help. That is one of the big problems, I know, with young people. There's more help there than they're aware of. But if they could be informed and told about these things and be encouraged to get help, it will be much easier for them. And another thing, to develop a high standard of living. If they do this and live up to it, their life will be much easier and much happier. Now, there will be temptations, but if they have high morals and high standards and choose their friends with people from the same group or same ideas as theirs, it will make it easier for them. I think that's about all that I had to say about this, but if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer if I can. Or were you going to do that later?
We can do that later.
All right.
Thank you very much.
We continue with a gentleman who, among other things, was responsible for squeezing all the dollars out of the congregation in order to build this edifice in which we are residing today. Chuck Dell was born in 1920 on the Chicago South Side. I asked him if that was near Comiskey Park. I lived in Chicago some time, which is a really tough part of town. He said, no, this was the more genteel side of Chicago, and he grew up in a home environment which stressed, among other things, education. He left Chicago, going about as far east as he could to graduate from Dartmouth in 1942 in economics and poli-sci, political science. And as the war came on, he joined the Army and went to tank destroyers and was present in the Normandy invasion of D+10. Stayed with the Army tank destroyers through the war. Came back, joined International Harvester. He said he went to Detroit to the automobile manufacturing business. And so, what did you do? I built cars on the assembly line. He went on to public administration, joined the Public Health Service, Department of Agriculture, Department of Education, retired in 1981. And about that point, became the money manager for our construction of the new facilities. He's married to Ruth since 1949, 2 children. One of the original members of MVUC, has been board chair, and more recently in charge of the Northern Virginia Affordable Housing and the Unitarian Universalist Affordable Housing in Washington, D.C. We understand that for many years he was the tennis star to beat until Pete Bloom showed up. Please welcome Chuck Dell to my
Well, before getting into the deeper thoughts Larry allowed us to get to, I just want to take this time to say how good it's been to be a member of this church since its beginning, and with people here. We came up 35 years ago here, I think, when we were in our 30s, and talk about a group of invincible and many people, so many years. Ruth and I are moving away in January and going to a life care institution. Not far. We're going to stay in the church. Come back as much as we can. But I wanted to say again, to all the people who were so wonderful to Ruth and me when this terrible thing happened to us 2 years ago. It was one of the most remarkable experiences I've gone through. Just outpouring, just tremendous. Well, now, like Ron, when I was young and I got out of college, I had the answers. Ron said we had a blueprint for society in 1942. And we had war, but that all the more convinced we were the war. And we could go on. We were sure we had the answers. We got to go to an experimental work camp where we lived out the answers. And so we came eventually into federal government and the bureaucracy. And again, we know reforming education became one of the great challenges. And Ron knows much about this. And this, being in the federal bureaucracy for 30 years, is an awakening to reality. It's also a very disillusioning experience of a high order and somebody who still, going in, we could do this without any help. We had big plans right here. We didn't need any help we just knew. But slowly, we were very highly critical. Anybody else, critical of my father. Terribly. He worked for money. Imagine that. We had some bad habits. Oh, we were cruel about those. But anyway, we went on and on. And so as time went by, this great slow awakening came to, we weren't going to transform the world with your blueprint. And I think of some of you all, I know a lot of you out in the bureaus, and I know the tough things that none of you grew up with government, others who worked out there. And so, in trying to make sense of all this, and seeing what's happened in America at this time, I slowly became transformed instead of the no belief in any God whatsoever. I slowly evolved to become pantheist, that God is everywhere, in everything, the cosmic God, the vital forces of the universe. This is the only thing that makes sense. And that we really couldn't very well understand, except nothing else, except a small portion of this. But this production in our lives, we've seen so much incredible beauty in our lives, which I think about some cases, you know, like when we saw our kids first went into the ocean beach, and two, run out, run back. Some of the great music of that, the transforming experience in the past, transcendent. I think particularly two young 10-year-olds. One was Josh Carr, and the other was Byron Peebles. And they were 10 years old. I think younger than their rather self-conscious person. Wow. They must be really beginnings. But then they had such remarkable fun with each other. Unbelievable joy. And I was like, walk with them watching this. And I thought, this would be this great things. And other great things would happen. I think of the work that went on with Memorial Walk. The building of the choir. Well, many things in the religious education. So our hopes of the church have come to pass. But still, we are in a unique island above the roaring sea. We Unitarians here, everywhere. We really live in the special. The rest of the world is so much entwined this hits us every day. And savage, barbaric, can reach any one of us out of the sky. Absolutely. Happens one moment. And this seems to be the condition of the world, really, more than our special, delightful experience we can't forget. And you can't believe that God is producing this, the workings in the universe. If you study your Al Weiss and you study out there, the more impressed you become with this great thing. We're just tiny elements of all this. And yet, in spite of all this barbarism and savagery we see around us, and the great tedium that's swarmed over us in so many ways in our lives, we're left with a great paradox. This is a great paradox that I face, and I'm sure each of us, older anyway, face this great paradox. That this world, this mechanistic world, the world of God, this great wonder, this great savagery, is moving on. And we are such a speck. We swept along, like the ant on the log, the ant powder on the log in the spring tide, the spring floods come to the river. And yet, we must, I think, the great paradox of our lives, we must be absurd, we must fight against ridiculous odds, we must take our hope and have our hope, and it's for the long, long time, way beyond our generations. The hope is way into the future. We go on, we keep going, and we make these tremendous efforts because we must. We just simply make it. And we have this incredible experience of beauty which calls us forth to become addicted to it. And so, the end, I talked far too long. I just say that we live with this paradox. We'll be in there. We must go on. We will. There's great beauty in the past. Even great, more astounding things in the future ever conceived. That's about it.
We continue with a woman who has typified perpetual energy. Sally, although born in the Keystone State, did not stay put very long in 1917. She said she was educated at various schools, but we know that she went to Bennington College in Vermont, studied scenic design. Now, prior to World War II, scenic design was probably headed for the theater. But while she was working after college as a social editor in the Berkshire Evening Eagle, a young reporter who specialized in city politics and city law caught her eye, and she met and married Val. Worked with a repertory group. When Val went off to the war in the Navy, to an aircraft carrier to help accept the surrender of Japan, she went first to National Airport, carrying with her, of course, her training in scenic design, which translated into doing electrical work on VIP airplanes. Not just any airplanes. She worked on the VIP airplanes, class act. She went on to Sacramento, and they then came to Washington after the war, and Val was with AID, 4 children later, one book on modern art called Look Again, which is in the museums and available here, and a children's novel which takes place in Italy to be published. She was never still for long, intellectually or otherwise, and we're looking forward to hearing from her. Please welcome Sally Montgomery.
Well, I don't know about all that. Well, I was thinking about all the changes I've seen in the world
computers, and from little tiny airplanes to huge jetliners and man the moon and all that. But you know, I got to thinking, there are some things that just haven't changed. Now, for example, take the Quaker oatmeal box. It's the same cardboard cylinder it was when I was a kid. Now, if some of you don't know what I'm talking about because you don't eat oatmeal, you should eat oatmeal. It's full of fiber. Very good for the nutritional diet. Now, I don't know what you all do with your oatmeal boxes. My father used to make crystal radio sets out of them. And each one of us, each kid, had a radio in his or her room. It cut down the arguments about what programs to listen to. My parents could have the family radio in the living room all to themselves to listen to the news, or Fibber McGee, or the soaps. Would Helen, daughter of a coal miner, marry the English Lord Percival? Tune in tomorrow. I'm sure you can think of other things besides oatmeal boxes that haven't changed at all, but think about it. There are also, we share, all of us, no matter what our age, identical memories of certain emotional experiences. I don't mean stuff like love, grief, death, envy, hate. I mean, for example, the emotions you felt when, as a teenager, yearning to drive a car, you finally reached the age of getting a driver's license. Is there any one of you out there that doesn't remember the sensations you had when you took that road test for the license? The clammy hands, the quivering butterflies in your stomach? Sometimes I stop whatever I'm doing and I imagine at this very moment, all over the country, there are hundreds, maybe thousands of teenagers taking their test with butterflies in their stomach. It makes you chirpy, really. I asked the lady once because some don't have a driver's license. I've renewed mine hundreds of times over the year, but the one thing that does stay the same, although we all have the same size license, our birth date is on it, and I've renewed mine 100 times, but the birth date never changes. We have that in common, the size of the license. Incidentally, I do have a friend that doesn't drive, and I asked her once, what do you use for an ID? My passport. But you've never been out of the country. I said, it doesn't matter, it's got my birth date on it. Oh, I do wish the State Department would make them wallet size. Our personal use of this ID varies, of course. One of my earliest and most traumatic experiences occurred 50 years ago in the 1940s. We were in a restaurant and the waitress asked for IDs to be sure we were old enough to drink beer. I had my ID card out, although I was old enough, but I'd always been asked to show it before, and it was always kind of flattering. You know something? That time the waitress looked at me, not the ID, and asked, well, you have beer on draft department. I was crushed. I must be showing my age. I was 25 years old, no longer to be mistaken for under 21. It was a turning point in my life. Another thing we share, but not all at the same time, it's an individual realization that one is growing older. Sooner or later, you'll have to get used to this fact. You do have to suffer little indignities along the way. I remember when I was 50-something, I returned overdue books at the library. And the librarian and I held out 15 cents. The librarian looked at me. She said, senior citizens aren't required to pay fines. I should have been insulted and pulled out my ID. I was only 58. Instead, I just pocketed the 15 cents and felt no guilt at all. I know people who resent special senior citizen privileges. One friend refuses to get a pink ID card, you know, for buses. Men have blue cards to show to the bus drivers for a fare discount. I said, well, why not get one? Well, she doesn't want all those people on the bus to know she's over 60. That's silly, I told her. You'll probably never see any of them again. Later, when the metro was she had no problems in getting the senior citizen fare cards. They got whipped in and out of the turnstile so fast, no one could read the senior stamp. And on the other hand, one final note, my friend Mary is a modern dancer. She's very tall and thin and reminds me of Martha Graham. She's kind of ageless and she has angular movements. She's been dancing concerts, dance recitals all through her decades of life. Last month she told me about an intergenerational dance recital she was trying out for. It was to be a solo dance by an 8-year-old through the generations to an 80-year-old. She tried out for the latter and was accepted. She was elated. I said, but Mary, you're not 80 yet, you're only 75. So what's wrong with lying a little behind you? And she didn't feel guilty at all.
We continue with an icon who is unfortunately not able to be with us today. Rufus Wright was one of the later icons. He was born in 1913. Came from an Oklahoma Methodist family, graduated with a history major, went on to get a PhD in physics, and spent much of his life at the radiation lab at MIT, where he developed and was awarded several patents within that field. Went on to the Naval Research Lab, retired finally in 1977, and then found time to be part of the school board, chaired the Monlock House, part of the PTA, charter member of MVUC, a former board chair, and I don't know what else, because there's not room on the paper to list all of the things that he's done. So he could not be with us, and he pre-recorded his thoughts on the typewriter and asked me to present them for him. So please listen to the words of Rufus Wright. My childhood was spent in a small rural southwestern town. Attended Sunday school in a Methodist Episcopal South church, college at a Methodist affiliated college. Once a week chapel attendance required, but I didn't go to Sunday services. For about 20 years I was unchurched, never going except for a few weddings and funerals. My belief, if any, during this period was essentially humanistic. Contact with Unitarianism was primarily from literature, not We conclude with one of the originals of the church who was here in person. According to the biographic material that Saul Barron gave to me the other day, he was born in the Department of Commerce in 1949, serving there until 1972. He negotiated reduction of trade barriers under the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. This is certainly relevant today. Senior U.S. representative to the United Nations Economic Commission and Eurasia and Far East, trade advisor to the Organization of American States. Then after retirement from those activities, he switched to the really important things of life and became an assistant director of the Division of Performing Arts, Smithsonian, during the 70s and 80s. He's been a volunteer reading tutor, charter member of MVUC, 2 terms on the Board of Trustees and Board Chair, and an RE teacher. Just to summarize briefly, please welcome one of our most enduring friends of MVUC, Saul Barron.
What can you say after these sages? Sally Molinari in particular. I want to say that when I was a kid, it was drummed into me that you should listen to the Greyhead folks because they really had all the wisdom. You know, it is comforting that my friend Pete Boone and the Sunday Services Committee has finally come around to the same conclusion. Well, here I am, pushing 80, I don't profess wisdom, but I do have some observations that may be of interest to some. The most difficult battle of my life has been to be myself. There were so many forces trying to make me be somebody else. Do try having more than one career. For me, it turned my life around, and I'm sure contributed to my being able to reach 78. Oh, those should-haves. They have plagued me over the years. Do try to make a part of your life, or your approach to life anyway, I will, instead of I should have. Actually, you know, the important thing about aging is to keep on keeping on. One may do that in various ways, but I think one of the best ways is to spend time with people of all ages, especially younger people, who can introduce you to new, young ideas and teach you many things that you may have missed along the way. Yes, get involved with others. Meet as many new people as possible. Start or join a group which can become a community for you. One of the best decisions that I think I've ever made was to join with 98 others back in 1955. Chuck and others have already spoken. And start the Mount Vernon Unitarian Church. It is still one of my very favorite communities. It is a safe place for me. It has always been that. It has been a haven where I can always be me. Go to church services, but do not let that interfere with your attending adult education classes or volunteering to teach a class. It is the best way I know to get well acquainted with people and explore the unusual, such as Al Searle's mythology class, the longest continuous religious education class at MVUC, more than 25 years. If you don't take that class, you may miss a chance to really know the meaning of life. Or if you want a really big bang out of life, by all means take out Einstein's course on the origin of the universe. Don't just live for yourself. It is so much more satisfying to devote part of your life in helping others in need of your assistance and wisdom. Have compassion for all. Travel when you are young, but also do it when you are old. I'm planning to go to the West Coast this December. Read as many books as you can, but do not let reading interfere with your zest for living. And do bake bread. The old-fashioned way, with young people, to share the fun of the kneading and the aliveness of the dough. Be adventuresome at all ages. Kick up your heels. Walk barefoot in the rain. And if it suits you, wear lots of fur. And don't forget music and poetry. To listen to or to make. And whatever you do, do it with passion. And now a few words from that great UU author, E.E. Cummings, which sort of summarizes how I feel today. only as long as you can laugh at ourselves are we nobody else. To be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best